Have you ever wondered what would happen if a Roman emperor had access to Google Analytics? It sounds like a joke, but what if Caesar could A/B test his political speeches? Or if the pharaohs could track supply chain efficiency for pyramid construction in real time? Today, we're diving into a fascinating thought experiment: why ancient empires would have absolutely loved the digital analytics tools we take for granted. Let's start with the lifeblood of any empire: information. For ancient rulers, gathering data was a slow, expensive, and often inaccurate process. They relied on messengers, spies, and census takers who traveled for weeks, even months, to bring back reports. By the time the information reached the capital, it was already outdated. Imagine a provincial governor sending a message about a grain shortage. By the time the emperor received it and dispatched aid, a famine could already be underway. Now, picture this: Emperor Augustus logs into his imperial dashboard. He's not looking at website traffic, he's looking at the Roman Empire. He sees a real-time map with color-coded alerts. A region in Egypt flags red. Grain yields are down 15% this week due to unexpected locust swarms. Instantly, he can see surplus grain levels in nearby Sicily and reroute shipments with a few clicks, preventing the crisis before it even begins. He could track tax revenue by province, day by day, identifying corruption or economic downturns instantly, not months later. This isn't just about efficiency, it's about stability. The ability to react proactively to problems would have been the ultimate superpower for any ruler. Let's talk about military campaigns. Generals like Alexander the Great or Genghis Khan were masters of strategy, but they were often operating with limited intelligence. They relied on scouts and captured enemies for information about enemy numbers, terrain, and morale. It was a dangerous guessing game. Now, imagine Genghis Khan with a modern military analytics suite. Instead of just scouts, he has satellite imagery, well, let's call them magical seeing stones, that show him enemy movements in real time. He could analyze troop deployment patterns, identify weaknesses in their formations, and even predict their next move based on historical data. He could use sentiment analysis on intercepted communications or magically overheard conversations to gauge enemy morale. Is the opposing army on the verge of mutiny? Are their supply lines stretched thin? This level of insight would turn a great general into an unbeatable one. He could optimize his own supply chains, ensuring his famously fast-moving armies never ran out of arrows or food. The battlefield would transform from a chaotic clash of wills into a calculated game of chess where he could see every piece on the board. Beyond war and logistics, think about the social and political aspects of running an empire. Keeping a massive, diverse population happy, or at least not rebellious, was a constant challenge. The Romans were masters of bread and circuses, using public works and entertainment to placate the masses. But how effective were these efforts? Really? Enter social analytics. What if a Roman emperor could track public sentiment like we track Twitter trends? He could see which policies were popular and which were causing unrest in real time. Is the new aqueduct in Gaul being celebrated, or are people complaining about the taxes used to build it? He could run sentiment analysis on graffiti from Pompeii to understand the common person's concerns. Are they worried about the price of olive oil or the latest gladiator matchups? This isn't just about spying on your citizens, it's about understanding them. He could tailor his public speeches, his building projects, and even his tax policies to directly address the population's needs and desires, creating a more stable and prosperous society. Instead of waiting for a riot to break out, he could see the simmer of discontent and address it with a targeted grain dole or a spectacular new series of games at the Colosseum. It's public relations on an imperial scale. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of economics. Ancient economies were complex, but managing them was like trying to steer a ship in a thick fog. Rulers relied on slow, manual census data to understand their tax base, population growth, and agricultural output. The Domesday Book, commissioned by William the Conqueror in 11th century England, was a monumental achievement in data collection for its time. It took years to complete and was essentially a static snapshot of his kingdom. Imagine if William had access to a live economic dashboard. He could track trade flows along every major road and sea lane. He could see which industries were booming and which were struggling. If a silver mine's output suddenly dropped, he'd know immediately and could investigate for corruption or technical issues. He could model the economic impact of a new tax before implementing it, avoiding policies that might accidentally cripple a vital industry. He could perform what we call cohort analysis on his population. Are farmers in a certain region becoming more or less prosperous over time? Are artisans in cities having more children? This data would allow for incredibly sophisticated long-term planning, ensuring the empire's economic health for generations, not just for the current year. It would be the difference between guessing and knowing, transforming economic policy from an art into a science. Finally, let's consider the grandest projects of the ancient world, like the Great Wall of China or the Pyramids of Giza. These were incredible feats of engineering and project management, but they were also incredibly inefficient by modern standards. How many workers were needed? How much stone had to be quarried? How long would it take? These were estimates based on experience, but subject to massive overruns. Now, equip the first Qin emperor with modern project management software. He could create a detailed project plan for the Great Wall, breaking it down into thousands of individual tasks. He could assign resources, workers, materials, food supplies to each section of the wall and track their progress in real time. If one section was falling behind schedule, he'd get an alert. He could then analyze the bottleneck. Is it a supply issue? Not enough skilled masons? He could immediately reallocate resources from a section that's ahead of schedule to fix the problem. He could use predictive analytics to forecast the project's completion date and budget with incredible accuracy. This level of control would not only make these monumental projects faster and cheaper, but also safer for the workers involved. It would be the ultimate tool for a ruler whose legacy was literally being built in stone. So, while the idea of an emperor using a spreadsheet might seem funny, the underlying principle is serious. The core challenges of leadership, gathering information, managing resources, understanding your people, and planning for the future are timeless. The empires of old were built on the best data they could get. If they had the tools we have today, they wouldn't just have loved them. They would have used them to build empires that were more efficient, more stable, and might have lasted even longer. It really makes you appreciate the incredible power of the data that's at our fingertips every single day. Thanks so much for joining me on this historical thought experiment. If you enjoyed this journey back in time, please hit that like button and subscribe for more videos where we explore the intersection of history and technology. Let me know in the comments which ancient empire you think would have benefited the most from digital analytics. See you next time.